screw the annual review process. Screw it. What's more meaningful? Have I affected folks' lives in a positive way? And that's my intent.
And so somebody has to come along that cares enough about them to have that discussion with them and say, like, hey, you're a brilliant jerk. And sure, you're brilliant, but nobody likes working with you. And if we don't fix that, you can't continue to be a part of this team.
This is high performance leadership. This is the reason why most leaders are sort of mediocre and they sort of suck and people don't like, what's the number one reason for people leaving companies? That their manager sucks and things like that. This is the center of a hard, real problem in today's organizations. Entry music. Da, 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 da. It's the Bob and Josh Show.
In today's AI world, there's all this talk about how to use AI to become a better product manager, be a better developer, be a better leader, be a better all those things. This is the anti-AI episode. This is how you, as a human, lead humans and the difference that makes. Sure, there's cool things with AI that can happen, but at the end of the day, the start of the day, the middle of the day, all day, you're humans leading humans. And that's what today is about. So Robert, this was the brainchild of you that you threw at me this morning. So I passed the baton to you to lead us in this direction.
You got it, Josh. You did. I mean, you kicked it up. I don't want to couch this as anti-AI or opposed to AI.
Right.
I don't care about this episode. Doesn't care about AI.
Right.
This episode is about leaning into your human beingness as a leader, not only personally, but emanating your humanness to the people that you lead, and what that looks like, and what that does. How does that accentuate your leadership? How does that amplify your leadership? And I think a lot of leaders, the other part of the genesis in my thinking on this is a lot of people try to suppress their humanness as a leader. It's like I only can bring my professional self to work, or I need to emulate, Lee Iacocca so as a leader, and be a jerk, or be strong, be an ass. That I need to push people, and they're resources. They're not people. They're resources. So that, and I may be joking a little bit here or animated, but I think that's the default posture when people get into leadership, because that's what they've learned. And what we're throwing on the table is not to do. That's not your prime directive. That's fine to do some of that, to be project focused, to be product focused, to be release focused, to be revenue focused. That matters. But what's your prime directive? What's your center of gravity? And I would say, be a human. And some attributes of that. Go ahead, Josh.
Yeah. So one of the things that I've seen is, as I've come through the ranks in leadership, is certainly early in my career, it was, you can't fraternize with the team, and
exactly.
You can't be friends. And then, or forget being friends, just being a human, as Bob said it out. And there's this perception that you can't be a good, strong leader and have a human connection with your team and other teams. That's the challenge. Is that's harder. It's easier to be the tough person that doesn't connect with anybody, or to be the person on the other side of the spectrum that is friendly and, doesn't really do any of the hard stuff. Yep. Being a great leader, as we've talked about so many times, lives in the middle. But there is this perception that, oh, well, as soon as you start going down that path, it's over, and you can't be a strong leader once you know people's families and their kids, and you start to have compassion for them and care about them. That's absolutely wrong. And to me, that's what Bob is really trying to make sure that we keep centered, is that it's about the people. It has always been about the people, but that doesn't exclude you from being a good, strong leader that has set a standard and is growing people and teams and all of that stuff. Because that is hard work, because you know what? Nobody really respects a leader that is just a yes person and is always nice that's the wrong word, and always does whatever the team wants and doesn't challenge and push and do all those things. So to me, I think that's the magic bit. So don't view this as oh, I have to be the super nice person. Yes, you should be super nice, which is what we're talking about. It's a yes and. So that's the thing I want to make sure people have in their brain as they're listening or watching to this.
I would, yeah, I absolutely agree. The other thing, Metacasters, is this is a pivot for me. So the way Josh described leaders that believe, for example, you can't be friendly with people because you may eventually lay them off or you may have to give them some hard feedback. That was me. So this episode is a 180 pivot for me in thinking, or a learning opportunity for me. So if you worked, God help you, if you worked for Bob Galen 25 years ago, you would have not been happy. And I didn't care if you were happy. I just needed you to get shit done and shut up and be thankful. I think it's part of my words sometimes where be thankful you have a job and you get a paycheck, and just shut up. And this is hard for me to say, but I believe that in my heart, right? And I applied that. The other thing is I applied it to myself.
Mm-hmm.
So I was hard on myself. That's how I was showing up myself. And then I was showing up with others. Now, this episode is talking about that learned pivot. And it's not just, oh, I took drugs and pivoted or I had counseling. This is more effective. The reason I pivoted is I realized that it was ineffective. And I grew into a more effective style. So that, again, that's what we're talking about. So some of the attributes, and maybe then Josh can, we can talk. I think be compassionate is one of them. If someone has a death in the family, you don't look just at the HR, oh, they get 2 days off and something. And then you try to whittle, can you only take 1 day off? Because we got to get this release out the door, right? You be compassionate, you extend it, you amplify it, you be supportive, you support people's growth. I mean, even more than we've talked about in the Metacast, we've talked about supporting, mentoring and super mentoring. And in this case, I mean, you really lean into supporting people, even mediocre people who aren't your highest performers. Support the hell out of them. They independent of their performance, they're humans, they're people, right? And so support them. If you met them out in the community, you would support them. Why not support them there? Believe in them. This is something like really lean in. I believe in Josh. I don't know if I've ever said it that way to Josh, but I mean, I know that he knows that I believe in him, right? It's an innate thing that over time, I believe in the power. I can't believe this is happening. I believe in the power of Josh Anderson, and I'm being 100% sincere. Right. I believe in him. I believe in his personality. I believe in his skill. I believe in his thinking and acknowledge it. Now I'm acknowledging it. So those are some saying, make sure another attribute is make sure everyone feels that they're seen. That's something nowadays. The other measure for these things, Metacasters, that I'm talking about, it's not that I'm working hard. It's you want to ask people. So instead of, you can't measure this by my behavior. You have to measure it by, are the folks that you're leading, are they feeling human? Are they feeling you as a human? So the measurement is not you, what you're doing. The measurement is, are they receiving? Are they receiving what you're telling, what you're emanating? And are they feeling good about it? Do they feel like they're supported? Do they feel compassion? Do they feel your belief? Josh, any reactions to what I said?
Yeah. So as I'm thinking about this, another measure is the rest of the team doing those same things? Because if that's something Bob and I have talked about so many times, is how important it is for you as a leader to model the behavior that you want to happen. And so what I think about is when the tables turn and something devastating happens in your life, how do you hope that people show up for you? Or something happens to your best friend. Imagine your best friend is a member of your team and something horrible happens for them. How do you hope that their teammates show up for them? Are they doing
Yep.
all those things? Are they saying, hey, we got it. You just had a death in the family. Go do what you need to do. We've got this. We're going to be fine. We'll find a way, right? Those are the things that you want to see and hear, but that doesn't happen if you as a leader don't show up that way first. But that's wrong. It might happen, but it will show up in just an amazing way if you as a leader are also leading in that way. If you are having all of those things that Bob is talking about, and you define that as a culture. So that's one of those things that I want to make sure that people walk out of this episode thinking is part of what you need to do as a leader is you need to talk about this. Don't wait until something bad happens to then become a supportive person. Be a supportive person. Talk about how we support each other in preparation for when those times come, because those times are going to happen to anybody and everybody. And have that be a thing of, this is who we are. This is how we want to show up for each other. Make sure it's a known. Make sure that that's part of the culture and defined, part of the hiring process and everything that goes along with that. So that when something does happen, your team's ready to respond in the way that you hope, in the way that everybody would hope that they show up.
Absolutely. And again, it's not just major. You know, we use an example like a death in the family. I want to have a counter. Josh's daughter is graduating from high school. It's a positive thing. His daughter gets married. Whatever. His daughter is playing a baseball game in another city. Is in like a championship league, or his sons, or whatever. So it's the negative thing. Someone's in the hospital, but it's the positive. You're giving. So what I would couch this as family first. Is this humanness as leader? And I know everyone's probably cringing now, and I don't care. Family first. Everyone's family is first. Their prime directive is, I want people to know that yes, there's work and there's delivery and there's paychecks and there's all this stuff that we have to do. But at the end of the day, I don't care about you as a coder or as a tester or as a whatever. I care about you first as a human and family. If you don't have a family, I want to think about diversity. I'm going to treat everyone equally. If you're gay, I want to try to treat you exactly the same as straight couples. So there's no difference if you're having family issues, etc. This is one of the reasons why the fact that DEI has gotten, sort of politicized, it breaks my heart, because I'm not a political DEI supporter. I'm a fairness supporter because it's human. Like, to me, diversity, equity, and inclusion matters from a humanness perspective. We're all in this together. We're part of the human race. So we're not necessarily part of IBM, the IBM race, or the Cisco race, or first. We are, and we lose that. So think about all of these events and put people first. I know I'm saying stuff that sounds crazy. Like, for traditional leaders, this sounds like crazy talk. What are you talking about? And again, Josh hit balance, right? There's balance, but at the same time, your lineage needs to be towards the people, always, infinitely towards the people.
There's a couple points that I want to tackle. One is lean into, depending on where you are in your life and everything that's going on, is in modeling the behavior to make sure people felt comfortable taking care of their family in whatever way was required or preferred for them. I tried to be very visible and vocal about the things that I was doing when I was leaving work early to go to my son's baseball game, or leaving work early to go pick up my daughter for something. And I made sure I didn't sneak out. It wasn't one of those things. It was, hey, everybody, I'm out this afternoon because I've got to go do XYZ with one of my kids. And I made sure that was known, not me trying to like puff out my chest and say like, hey, look at me, I'm being a good dad. It's like, no, like, this is this is the norm. This is what we do. So I want to make sure you see me doing it so that you feel comfortable and confident in doing all of those things. One of the things that I talk a good game about, but I'm not as good as I'd like to be, is vacation and turning off the phone and not responding and doing those things. Um, I I want to be good. I want to be better at that, so that I set the tone for everybody else. But I'm not as good as I want to be, and I know it, and it frustrates me. But that's a thing that I'm working on. Second is I feel a greater responsibility to lean in and develop people more when I have a more personal connection with them. So, what do I mean by that? If I connect with someone as a human, there's a chance that if I see them 2 or 3 years from now out at an event or at dinner or at soccer field or who knows what, right? That we're going to stop and say, hey, and connect and do all that stuff. Whether we're like friends or not, but just like, hey, we work together and we know each other and, we would enjoy seeing each other again. I feel a greater responsibility to help them become whatever they want to become. And oftentimes that is the other side of the spectrum that we talked about, that yes and piece of really coaching them up and really being honest with them. That is something that I've never understood, that people have talked about the angle of, oh, when you create a connection with somebody, you're not going to be able to say the hard thing. I'm actually the other side of that. When I have a connection with somebody, I feel even more responsible to tell them the thing that they need to hear, even if it's not the nice or fun thing, but the thing they need to hear. I feel like even more of a jerk if I don't tell them when I have that connection with them, whatever level the connection is. But that's a thing that just never clicked with me, where everybody was like, oh, well, like if you go to lunch with one of your employees, you're going to become friendly with them, and you're not going to be able to have a hard discussion with them. And for me, it's been the opposite. So I've never understood that angle, which is, maybe why I lead the way I lead. But that's always been one of those things that the more connected, the more I'm going to lean in. It's just I don't know, maybe it's just the way I'm wired.
I think relationship, everyone, part of what we're talking about is build that relationship. But however you want to do that. And then that strengthens your leadership, is what Josh is saying. It strengthens now you're responsible for giving feedback, for growing those folks. That's hogwash. I just wanted to say hogwash. That's that old philosophy of that's hogwash. I don't know what even generated that. Some controlling, sort of, mechanistic, Tayloristic leadership styles, wherever it came from. That's hogwash. If you're a leader and you have courage, if you have the leadership, so it's not just leaning into human, you're leaning into yourself, you're leaning into your character, right? And your responsibilities as a leader. So you have those. I do want to say something, Josh, that I've done before, is in this humanness. You can push people too hard to be your way. Mm-hmm. So you have to listen in this. Like, I could push Josh. If I met Josh when I first met Josh, I think he was like a manager or a tech lead or something at Teradata. And let's say he didn't want to become a director over time, and I pushed him too hard. So, and I didn't listen to Josh. Josh kept saying, Bob, I don't get joy out of this, or I don't have fun. This is what gives me, I like this part and not that part. And I pushed him, and then he said it again. Right. So I guess it's like a coaching principle. When we're human, we're listening to other people. It's not our agenda, it's their agenda. Now, if Josh when could I push him? If he gave me permission, if he said, hey, can you help me? I want to go down this path. Then yeah, I'm going to be all in on that. But I think I pushed people who didn't want to go there sometimes. And they may have been successful, and they may have done for me, but there's a balancing act there. So maybe a way of saying is we serve them. Part of that humanist, we serve them. And that's our mindset. The second thing, Josh said something, another measure is, and I love this measure, is when you see them later, like 10 years after you led someone, you're walking in a mall. Well, there's no malls. You're walking in an electronic mall or something, and you run into them. I've had this happen to me, not very much, but occasionally, and it's a phenomenal effect. I remember one young lady who I worked with and I led at a company 20 years ago. And, I bumped into her a few times, and she's grown in her career. And she pulled me aside one time and she talked about the effect that I had on her life, her work life, and her profession, and the role model I had. And there were some private things, there were some challenges she had, and it just warmed my heart. And that's a measure. Or someone appreciate. I've had people I fired. This is probably not, but I fired someone and they appreciated it later on. They said, "I appreciate you doing that. Not at the time, but it was the right thing, and I respect what you did, and it set me on this path, and it was the right path, and I needed to hear that, and no one else had given me that." So that's another. You may not hear it very often, but you should hear it. You should, over time, if you're being this human leader, you're not getting like performance feedback from the job. You're getting life performance feedback. You're maybe this sounds schmaltzy, but as a leader, I want to leave a legacy that I've affected people's lives.
Yeah.
Screw the annual review process. Screw it. What's more meaningful? Have I affected folks' lives in a positive way? And that's my intent. That's this human as leader. Josh, anything?
Yeah. One of the things that you mentioned is, and we've bounced around this, but I want to like smack it right in the face, is things people need to hear.
Yeah.
If you don't care about a human at all, you're not going to tell them the thing that they need to hear. You're effectively going to discard them. So think about Bob and I worked at Teradata, and at the time there was this wave of every year we're gonna reduce the bottom 10% of our team, and we do that every year, and that means that we get better. And the thing that I push back on is like, okay, if I actually do that, if I actually do the work, at some point we're going to have a really great team, and we should actually retain the air quote bottom 10% because they're really good. And so I ended up having to push back and say, this doesn't make sense. Maybe it made sense because no one did the hard work of really trying to grow the team. That was just the easy, lazy way to say like, hey, we are actually going to coach you. We're just going to stack rank you and then discard the bottom 10%. The right answer is, hey, we're going to look at everybody and it's our job to level everybody up. That's the job. The job isn't to discard people. The job is to help people become a different version of themselves. I intentionally didn't say better, just a different version of themselves, whatever that needs to be, whatever that looks like. That's the job. The job is to help them achieve whatever their goals and plans and all those things are. And that's the hard work. That's that messy middle that we talked about. It's easy to be the jerk and just say like, hey, we don't need you, we're going to fire you. Or it's easy to just, and this is the thing that I think Bob has seen a lot, that I've seen a lot, is there's those really talented people that everybody's afraid to say the thing they need to hear.
Yep.
And so somebody has to come along that cares enough about them to have that discussion with them and say like, hey, you're a brilliant jerk. And sure, you're brilliant, but nobody likes working with you. And if we don't fix that, you can't continue to be a part of this team. And that's the hard work. That's the difficult thing. But when you bring somebody through that and you work with them to evolve past that and understand how to be a great teammate and how to be somebody people want to work with and are excited to work with, that's when they have that realization of, oh my gosh, life is so much better. People like working with me. People, just the world changes. But that requires somebody that cares enough to say, we got to work on this. There's a problem here. As opposed to just like being quiet. Oh, they're good and they write good code. And, if we just leave them alone and just pretend that they don't cause all those problems within the team, everything will be just fine. But somebody has to care enough to say that thing. And those are the people that I think Bob mentioned about where he's fired somebody that's come back like, thanks for telling me that. I need to hear that. And I've had a couple of those throughout my career as well, where it's like, man, like I've got to work through this because I cared enough about the person. And so those are the things that bring me joy, that make me proud of the work that I do. So I align with Bob very much. Surprise, surprise, that we're aligned, after 300 or so episodes.
I was just making a list of people too. And I don't know what the ratios are, but there were some people in my career that just their professional growth trajectory just went through the roof. And it goes back what I'm sort of yes-anding to is, Josh, giving people, no one what they're high performers, but they have these impediments, they're a brilliant jerk or whatever, and no one wants to give them that key message or key messages. No one wants to coach them through that,
right?
For whatever set of reasons. And if we're human and we care, we're going to do that. We're going to step into that. And that trajectory I've seen in those people has, now that I'm thinking about it, has really gone through the roof. And I've seen that over and over again. So what I'm trying to get at is this humanness is not this soft, squishy, spiritual thing, right? Whatever the hell, what the hell are you? I know it feels that way to many leaders because you've been taught you have to like empty your cup and throw out that old stuff and realize that we have to fill it with some new stuff, more effective stuff. And what I'm saying is you're going to get hard results too. You're going to see hard results. You're growing. The people are your value proposition. So, it may feel uncomfortable to you, but try it and watch folks around you grow. If you're doing so, that's your prime measure, not in the job and then after the job. This is high performance leadership. This is the reason why most leaders are sort of mediocre and they sort of suck, and people don't like, what's the number one reason for people leaving companies? That their manager sucks and things like that. This is the center of a hard, real problem in today's organizations, and it's counterintuitive. But I'm challenging you to step into it as a leader.
Yeah, agree. The last thing I want to say is being a human, caring leader oftentimes means saying the things that people might not want to hear.
Amen, brother.
So, as Bob talked about, people think it's rainbows and unicorns if you're a human first leader. It doesn't always look like that. Sometimes it looks like, Bob, we have some work to do. And me being honest about the feedback that you should have heard for the past 10 years of your career, but no one was willing to do that. Everybody was afraid because they were afraid you were going to leave if they said anything negative towards you. But hey, like we have to solve this problem. So we have to work through this together. So being a human first leader isn't always, oh, hey, you're the greatest. In fact, it's often not, oh, hey, you're the greatest, because you are you are coaching, you are trying to help somebody become something greater than they are now. And that takes effort and is challenging and real work. And you have to coach them through that.
Real quick, one final word, Metacasters, something practical, Radical Candor by Kim Scott. One of the dimensions of radical candor is to enable you to give radical candor, radical feedback, speaking truth to people around you. You have to care personally. In fact, the entry is relationship. So this aligns perfectly with what we're talking about. It's creating relationship so that the person understands that you're giving them feedback because you care. You care personally. Don't give them that feedback if you don't. So the first step is that. So you want to read for this because some of the stuff, it's not all of it, but some of this is about feedback, caring, compassionate feedback, growing. Go read Radical Candor. It's not a big book, but it would be worth your while. Josh, I feel like we nailed this.
I feel good.
All right. Everyone from beautiful downtown Cary, North Carolina.
And beautiful downtown Fuquay, Varina, North Carolina.
I'm Bob, the Gorilla Galen.
And I'm Josh, Still the Anvil Anderson.
Take care, y'all.
Shake and bake. Come on, man.
Shake and bake.